And within 3 days of being on the market, we had multiple bids and it bid up to 880,000. So we feel like we made an extra $140,000 compared to what the other realtor told us we should be at. Hey there, everyone. Dave Barlow here with the gang from SellFor1Percent. It's a beautiful day here in Columbus, and we are going to dive right into our term of the week. Week. My dad used to do a joke about the word banana, nana. Said that I never know when to end it. So I now do that with the grandkids, and they love it. So it's a week. Don't know where to end it. So our term of the week this week is called comparables, comps. And there's actually two different ways to look at comps. I've been doing this 25 years. We do try to look at it pretty much the same way that an appraiser will look at the property, albeit it doesn't take us 3 days to figure it out. Normally within just an hour or less, we can look at the comps in the neighborhood and get a pretty good idea of what the value of your home should be. And then on the sell side, if we are working on a listing, we always like to come tour the home, spend some time talking about the things that you've updated, upgraded, so on and so forth, and then we can get a value on it. So comps from the seller side are going to be different than comps from the buyer side. And so we have two master real estate people here this morning. We got Jaysen, who's been real estate now, what, you're going on 19 years?
Almost 19
Wow.
years.
You're an old man and you don't even know it.
I know it. I'm definitely old.
And then Jay Marinsky, you're 6 years into it, do a lot of buyers. And so we're going to have Jay talk from the seller side perspective, and then we're going to have Jaime talk a little bit from the buyer side perspective of what does a comp mean. So Jaysen, go ahead and take it away.
Well, I mean, as far as, obviously a comp is a comparable sale. When I walk into a listing appointment, the sellers I meet with generally have an idea of what the comps are. Not always.
AKA Zillow.
Well, and they usually get postcards when things sell. They'll know their estimate number. And so when I walk on the door, I normally, will know that number. But I'm not like, I guess, most realtors where I walk in and I have my market analysis already completed, because I don't really know what I'm walking into. When I put together a market analysis for a seller, I'd like to know what I'm comparing it with and against. And when I say that, what kind of finishes do you have? Is the basement finished? You can't always tell that on the auditor's page coming in blind.
Right.
Are there any X factors? When I say X factor, how's your lot? Are you on what a builder would call a premium lot? Do you back to a golf course, or are you back into like a pond? Do you have a pool? A pool can be an X factor. And sometimes with the X factor, that means there are certain buyers that don't want to buy it at all because of the pool or the pond. My kids are going to drown.
Right.
Because of the acreage, too much yard to cut. But some buyers, that X factor, they're going to bring in a $20,000, $30,000 premium. So when I'm doing comps on the seller side, the science is probably more what Jaime's going to talk about, where we're looking in this specific neighborhood, going back 6 months, 12 months in time. I'm looking in the review mirror, trying to identify homes that are similar to yours that have sold and what did they sell for. And now by looking out of the review mirror, I'm now going to look out the windshield and try and project what that means for your price today. And that's where on the seller side, it does become more of an art form. It does become more of a feel. It does become more of like I said, what are those finishes? What is your location like? How is the functional flow of your house? Who's going to buy this house? I think that's a real key thing a lot of agents don't take into consideration when doing comps and pricing. Who's my target demographic? Is a family going to buy this house? Is this a young professional? Is this going to be someone who's downsizing? Now, how do I gear my marketing and my pricing towards that person? So when I do comps from the seller side, a lot of it becomes art, a lot of it becomes feel. I always give my honest opinion. And like I said, sellers typically know the comps and they have an idea on what they want. I'll come in, I'll give you my honest opinion, and then we'll see how it matches. But the wild card is the seller. I mean, if you want to list it for $1 million, I'll list it there. And so some of these prices and some of these ones that take a little bit longer to sell that you see, the realtors know the comps, the sellers know the comps, but they still can ask whatever they want to ask for.
Sure.
And I think that's a good way to dovetail into Jaime on the buyer side, that just because I'm asking $1 million doesn't mean it's worth that.
Right. And I would say on the buyer side, very important part, you want to know, like Jay said, the neighborhood. Also, as realtors, we want to know kind of how the market's trending. 2 years ago at 3% interest rates, your guess is as good as mine when we're going into a new listing that has 90 showings and going to have 20 to 40 offers. Your guess is as good as mine. What are you willing to pay?
Right.
This is what I think it's worth. How bad do you want the house? And then communicating with the agent, trying to get an idea of what other offers are at. What's the fair market value for this house? We don't want you to buy what's called a pig in the poke. Big thing in real estate when you first get into it is you don't want necessarily to have the nicest house in the neighborhood, because you're setting the standard. Everything's based on you. Now, the other side is, do you want to be the worst house in the neighborhood? And value-wise, you might do well there. Again, when we go into it, we're looking at finishes. Does this have the granite that the other house has? Does this have the 2-car garage that the other one has? What is the price per square foot of this house in comparison to your neighborhood? This is where I think the price is at. And then again, it's an art form of talking with the agent. What other offers do you have? How bad does this buyer want the house? And what are you willing to pay for it? And again, when you get an appraisal and the appraiser has gone in there and told the bank, this is what I think the house is worth, on that appraisal, there will be a stipulation of fair market value. What's fair market value? Well, it's what the buyer agrees to pay for it and what the seller agrees to take it for, or to sell it for. So there's a lot that goes into it, but we're going to make sure you don't overpay or undersell your property. And that's why you give us a call. We know what the market trends are. We're in tune with it. We know, we can look at the neighborhood and give you our opinion on price, and it's going to be close. So we can just give you 110% on our end, give you the logic, give you the thoughts. And then on the selling and buying side, ultimately you're pulling the trigger and based on our advice. And we know what we're doing, and we've been doing it for a while.
So a couple
when Jaime's talking about sorry, Dad, when Jaime's talking about trending and just picking up on that and where that comes into play, there are neighborhoods that have been growing 10%, 15%, whatever the appreciation rate is. I mean, kind of crazy rates to be growing yearly, right? And so if I'm looking again in the review mirror at homes that sold 6 months, a year ago, yeah, those are going to be a lot lower than what the house is selling for today. So part of this as the buyer is, if you're going to quote unquote overpay for the house, does it make sense to do that? Because over the next 6 months to a year, as the market is ripping and roaring, you're going to make that money back. I had a lot of buyers that paid $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 over the recent sales. And then 2-3 years later, they're in a position where they got $100,000 in equity because they bit the bullet and they overpaid. And so I find that all very fascinating. And again, Jaime's dead on the money. You have to take into account the trends. It's not as simple as what the numbers are in the price per square foot. And then same token as the market's going the other way. I'm sorry, Dad, I didn't mean to interrupt you. What were you going to say, man?
I was just couple anecdotes on the buyer side to dovetail into what Jaime was talking about. Every buyer situation is a little bit different, and that's going to determine what they want to offer as well. And so our general rule of thumb has always been that we don't want you to buy a house, overpay for the property, and then call us in 2 or 3 years and say, hey, I need to sell my home, you know, I got transferred, or my parents are ill and I need to move closer to them, whatever your situation is. And then we have to say, oh boy, you paid $50,000 too much for that house 3 years ago. There's no way in the world I can ever get you out of the house. And that's on us as the realtor. And so that's one of the reasons why we do these comps, is to say, hey, this is what we think the house is worth. And then you as the buyer have to make your decision. Am I willing to pay the price to get into the property? And if you are, we'll help you. We'll get you there. We'll make sure you're able to purchase the property. You know, and if your plan is to live in that house for 7 to 10 years, and we know that you're overpaying a little bit, but in that 7 to 10 year period, you're going to gain back because of appreciation values, it's a good deal. And the same thing on the seller side. I just closed one down in near Baltimore, Ohio, down between Canal and Pickerington area. And the post-close interview, we was talking about, you know, the sell price of the home. We listed it for $849. We sold it for $880,000. So we made an extra $40,000, you know, for that seller. Now this is just here at the end of September of 2023 that we did this. And the wife says, well, we made more than 40,000 because the other realtor that came and looked at the house, he said the best we could get for this house was $750,000. And when you came in, you said we could get $850. And we thought that might be a little bit high, but it was worth a try. And within 3 days of being on the market, we had multiple bids, and it bid up to $880,000. So we feel like we made an extra $140,000 compared to what the other realtor told us we should be at. And, you know, those are the things that we do. And as Jay said, we're going to give you our honest opinion. And then I tell people all the time that want to, you know, price too high, hey, even a blind squirrel will find a nut once in a while. And that happens, but let's have a game plan. And if the price doesn't work, then let's put ourselves in a position that we're going to do whatever we need to do in order to get your home sold. And again, depending on your situation, it could be you're just testing the market. It could be that you need to move next week because your new build down in Florida is ready to go. So whatever the situation is, that's also going to impact pricing, both on the buyer side and on seller side. And that's what we do. We have experts on both sides, to my left, to my right. We have experts that will give you the best advice. And as Jaime and Jaysen have said in the past, give these guys a call. They are very, very good at what they do. They will help you accomplish your goal, whether it be buying a home or selling a home. And every once in a while, we have a seller who needs to buy, and it works out great. And that's what we do. That's our full-time jobs. This is not a part-time position. This is what we do, and we are damn good at it. So give us a call. Individual phone numbers here. Check us out on the website. As we like to say, subscribe, like, hit that notification bell as this information comes out. You'll have the very latest from a group that does a tremendous amount of business here in the Columbus, Ohio region. Thanks, guys. I appreciate your time, and good conversation and good information for buyers and sellers about comps.